This is a video that I made October 21st of 2022. That's 1 year and 4 months ago. And my point here is to show you that there is a video that's been made private. And it's the one second in line. Just below Judith Edelman, Magnetic, is one that says, "Watch the truth about the trails. One man's theory." And we'll click on that. And it's now private. That is 7 years old, and it was an MB3 video, and I'm sure some of you have seen what it is. So this is a video, a live stream put out by Mr. MB3 today. It's almost an hour long. I'll include the link in the description. But regarding how these CMEs affect people's behavior and their mood, that's what this video is about. And you'll hear me reference that 7-year-old. It would be 7 years old by now, because when I was making that video over a year ago, it was 6 years old then. So now, that video that Mr. MB3 has now put on private would be 7 years old, and he did so recently. Within the last year, he clicked that video to private so no one can watch it. But I have a copy of it. First, let's watch these quick short videos that I took today. Oops.
Colors over there to the left of the sun. They are pouring it on thick today. I don't know if that allows you to see the colors any better. Because of the double CME impact, the Cannibal CME as they call it. The solar plasma radiation penetrating the atmosphere today. They're pouring it on thick. See all that shit? They've been doing that yesterday and today. Laying out trails that spread out so thick that it covers the whole sky. And when you look up at the sky, or at the sky near the sun, you see lots and lots of color. That's the solar radiation penetrating the atmosphere. That's the highly charged particles, and that's why people feel different today, but they don't know why. And so I guarantee there's an increase of road rage incidents, domestic violence, murder, assault, and a bunch of other people just losing their minds, because it's only gonna take a little time before we start to lose our mind. I know you think I may be out of line.
I took this video at about noon, and by the end of the day, multiple other people had been exhibiting the symptoms that they were highly agitated and experiencing the effects of this highly charged atmosphere that we're experiencing when we're in the middle of a geomagnetic storm. But you heard me reference the solar radiation mitigation program there, and you'll hear me mention it again, referring to a video that Mr. MB3 has now put on private. And I just realized he has now put it on private.
I'll include a link in the description where Mr. MB3 shows you that these metallic particles are made out of aluminum and copper and are to diffuse the radiation as part of a solar radiation mitigation program. It's a video he made 6 years ago, and you don't hear him talking about the trails because he already told you what they are, what they're made out of, why they're sprayed up there. And today is a perfect day to reference exactly that.
And the song that I started singing, it's only just a matter of time before we start to lose our mind. We're leaving all the haters behind. That's by AWOL Nation, and it's called Wake Up. And I believe this is exactly what they're referencing in that song when they say it's only just a matter of time before we start to lose our mind. Another lyric in that song is, "One day the sun will leave us all behind. Unexplainable sightings in the sky, and I hate to be the one to ruin the night. right before your eyes. They are referencing people losing their mind due to the radiation or the lack of magnetic field, as has been the case when they would send astronauts and cosmonauts up into space, and they would get to a point where they don't have the magnetic field and they would lose their mind. Whether it's the lack of magnetic field or the increase of solar radiation, aka the increase of highly charged particles, they go hand in hand. A lack of magnetic field means you're going to be exposed to that increased highly charged particles that are being blocked out. So that video by Mr. MB3, The Truth About the Trails, One Man's Perspective, I've got it here, but I recorded it from phone to phone, so the audio is a little bit low quality, but it's the only place you're ever going to see that ever again. And there's a reason that he went and put it on private 7 years later, because we've reached the critical moment where it doesn't really matter to get the understanding out. Whoever got the understanding, it was a limited time offer while supplies last. So you might want to watch the rest of this video. I'll link it in the description. No longer sitting on the merry-go-round. But let's just watch the Mr. MB3 part of it. Notice. Public service announcement.
Remember Richie saying, that MB3, he's a shill. He never mentions the trails. No, he just has the bigger picture, so he doesn't bang on and on and on and on and on about it.
Guys, what you're looking at right here is the sky from this morning, about 8:30 from Southeast Phoenix, Arizona. Chemtrailing was very, very prominent for just a few hours, and then it quit. The afternoon skies were very normal. But as you can clearly see this morning, it was not. And as usual, it's always around the proximity of the sun. In my case, they're normally flying from, like in this video, from March of this year. They're flying from that same direction, in fact, southeast to northwest or from east to west. This particular day, you could tell it was just a full-blown, urgent type of situation. You could just feel the urgency literally in the air. I want to say this was March 22nd. And at one time during this video I took, I think there were 18 or 20 different lines right in through here. All I did with the video was convert it into a negative format so that the lines would be black, the sky would be white. So you could have a little different perspective. Here's my theory. And again, it's just a theory, okay? I'm not a scientist. I am a man who's given this a lot of thought, like most of you have, and this is what I've concluded. I think what we're looking at here is an attempt to save Earth's magnetic shields and atmosphere from something in space. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with the magnetic fields. I think they're sensing something that they're not used to. Like we noticed an anomaly back on April 23rd. This was in March. I think there was something that was noticed by whoever monitors or has the fine equipment. They noticed a breach in the atmosphere. When they notice a breach, lines, sometimes grids like you see right here, are implemented, probably depending on the severity of the breach. These lines are made up of, and again, this is just a theory. I'm entitled to a theory, just like you are. These lines are made up of these things right here, nanoparticles. This thing is basically a neutralizer. It collects energy, a foreign type of energy that your magnetic shields are not used to. So it needs some help. This thing here is made of aluminum and copper. It's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 times smaller than a human hair, so it can be dispersed in an aerosol form. Because you can set these things on the ground, and they're not going to do any good. They have to become airborne, and that's what they are. So they're dispersed by airplanes to be airborne. Independently, they're no good. But in a huge assembly of lines, they're apparently working pretty good. And what they're doing, this is a picture from this morning, May 11th. Southeast, flying to the northwest in the proximity of the sun. You can see how they're thin. Those lines were just laid as I was driving to the school. 20 minutes later, right here, coming back to the east, see how they've gotten bigger and fanned out? Those are the same lines. They've collected the energy that they're supposed to, and they disperse and fall to the ground. Maybe they don't fall to the ground. I think maybe they do, though, but it just depends on the strength of that given day and where the energy is coming in at. That's where the planes are sent to, and the spraying begins. That's just my theory, and I'm sticking to it. I've thought of every single scenario under the sun, and that's the only one that I can logically speak of. I don't think there's a sinister attack on humanity. I don't think that. That's too much work. They've been doing this for several years now. I just think it's just an old-fashioned attempt like Ben Franklin made back in the 1700s. You know, he invented the old lightning rod that captured the energy before it damaged your home, you know. That was through a grounding process. This is terminally airborne grounds it. Takes the energy and disperses it in the atmosphere, and it helps the atmosphere contain it. The source of this energy, well, again, that's a whole nother subject. Personally, I think it's a combination of two things. I'm a believer in the binary star system. I believe we have two suns. We just can't see the second sun. I don't think you can ever see it. I don't think one day we're going to wake up and see two stars in the sky that resemble something from Star Wars. I just don't think that's going to happen. However, I think our sun feels its close approach. And its close approach may be 10 billion, 20 billion miles away, farther. Who knows? But it can still feel it. It can sense it. When it senses it, it changes its energy output from, let's just call it a yellow dwarf. Say all we've ever known, it's got the energy output and the magnetic shields of Earth are used to a yellow dwarf energy output. Well, as the second sun approaches and gets closer, it feels it, changes its energy output to say that of a white dwarf. So the spraying begins, and most of it is right in front of the sun because it changes the output of the sun. Pay attention to your surroundings where you're at, guys. You're going to see an absence of man-made color. Look at car paint. Look at signs on buildings, mainly ones that face east, south, or southwest. You'll notice those signs are bleached. The color is fading rapidly. And that's because of an influenced UV light. And I think it's influenced by binary star. And it's affecting our star in a way that they're trying to deal with it the best way that they can. And I think our magnetic shields and our ionosphere sense it from time to time in the form of disturbances, maybe a disconnect. That's what happened here. They don't fully understand the disconnect phenomenon. When we notice these things, they take the data down and say that it was nothing. Well, it's very obvious it was. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean, you know, it's not something that maybe we can't figure out together. But it's just the way it is. That's another reason I'm motivated to build our own magnetic field observatory. It's not that hard, but it's like anything else. It's funds that set us back and keep us from accomplishing these things. I don't like asking for money, guys. I've always done everything on my own. I don't like asking for money. That's not me. It's not who I am. But I definitely feel the urgency that this project does need to be done. If not by me, then by somebody else that has the money to do it. Get motivated and do it. Because the magnetic shields of Earth can tell you a wealth of information. Do you understand that? They can give you a whole wealth of knowledge. It's like a giant set of ears to outer space. And not only that, you can monitor the health of the magnetic shields themselves. If there is a planetary body near Earth or the solar system, those instruments are going to tell you. Do you realize that? They're going to tell you. But back to the the chemtrails and the spraying, I think that's what's going on, guys. I do think there is a source of energy that the magnetic shields and the atmosphere in general are just having a hard time dealing with. I think they're spraying nanoparticles in the air that are acting as airborne energy diffusers. They're harnessing this energy. Once they're done harnessing their energy and doing, or that form of energy, doing their job, they fan out in the fashion just like I saw this morning, and they disperse. They may fall back down to Earth. I don't know. But they're probably assessing the damage, and they're probably weighing one against the other. I don't know. I have no idea. It's just a theory. But if you went to that Conrad Observatory website that I told you guys to look at last night, there's another wealth of knowledge. Those people are...
Those are the particles of glitter that I've shown when I scrub the burned wood, and you can see the glitter running down on the black backdrop of the charcoal.
Experts in the magnetic field, they've already told us that it's moved 20 degrees since they've been monitoring it, over 170 years. So you can do the math. And you can form a respectable conclusion based off of that. They said it's weakened 10% in that time as well. So is it weakening just because of day-to-day wear and tear, or is it weakening because of an influence of a second source of energy? I don't know, but we could figure it out if we had the right equipment and we didn't have information being taken away from us. We had a steady flow of data that we could monitor these anomalies. We could figure it out. So that's what's motivated me, guys. And to be quite honest with you, I've never shared this with you guys, but my theory of what happened to the dinosaurs is not a catastrophic comet or a 6-mile wide asteroid that hit in the Gulf of Mexico or Yucatan. I don't believe that. My theory is the magnetic shields went down and everything on Earth went down with them. That's my theory. I don't believe the comet thing hit the Earth and destroyed the atmosphere from within. I think the magnetic shields went down. They've done it before, and they're going to do it again. And I think this is an attempt to at least slow down the process until they can figure out a better approach. And that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. And if you can help with the cause, get some magnetic field equipment, that would be absolutely awesome. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good.
So this was made almost 8 years ago. You heard him talking about March and April. This is April 23rd, 2016, where he's showing you something influenced the magnetic field and disturbed it in such a way. And he said that he thinks when they can see that there's going to be a point where there's a disturbance in the magnetic field, that's where they spray for the purpose of solar radiation mitigation, to diffuse that energy. I've also shown you that a fluctuation in the magnetic field creates a surge of ground current. So this is all part of the same process, and he has decided almost 8 years after putting this video out that it's no longer appropriate to share with people, because it's no longer a theory of what might happen in the future and what could be happening, but circumstances have evolved and progressed enough that it's no longer appropriate to allow people access to this information. Because he has such a large channel, I would have to agree. I'm hoping that maybe he would see fit to allow me to continue sharing this information with the small channel of refined, distilled consciousness that is at my channel over the past 6 years. This will be the 7th summer of showing plasma fire. So, that's what's happening. So normally you hear me talking about Muse messages delivered through music. Today I'm going to drop some links in the description of Muse medicine. Music that helps me Because when I took that video today at noon, showing you it's singing, it's only just a matter of time before we start to lose our mind, by the end of the day, I was discussing with another kid there how people were agitated and on edge and yelling and frustrated and angry. And when I told him, yeah, it's the double CME impact, he just kind of looked at me weird like, yeah, okay, I don't know what that was that you just said, but whatever. This is happening and it does affect our mood. The End it's a remix. Okay by Robin Schulz. Purple Sun, that's the black sun that is the sun Mr. MB3 was referring to. These are all Muse medicine to help stabilize your vibe. Let It Be by Blackmill. Breathe. FC Kahuna Hayling. As the Rush Comes. And last but not least, We Need to Calm Down by Particle House. Now, Greg Braden said in his video, Beyond Zero Point, the Collective Initiation, that if you don't like the word spirit, you can just use the word electromagnetic frequency and you're pretty much saying the same thing. And along those lines, one way that you could describe our current situation is that we are under spiritual attack. Those electromagnetic frequencies that are inundating our environment with those highly charged particles affect our mood, and that would be along the lines of the red plasma and the blue plasma that Jay Dreamers refers to. That if your heart is resonating with the frequencies of fear-based emotions, anger, frustration, contempt, animosity, bitterness, jealousy, all of those are fear-based emotions. The red plasma isn't bad. Okay, don't hear that. It resonates with and is attracted to that bad energy, if you will. Not to make too many judgment calls, but the red plasma is attracted to those hearts that cannot, when your heart is weighed against a feather, and if your heart is lighter than a feather, you make it through the filter. The red plasma is drawn toward those heavy, hardened hearts. And so right now, there is an agitation, an amplification of the energy around us. And it makes it very easy to get drawn into those negative emotions and feel agitated and aggravated and angry and not even know why. So now that you know why, because of the double CME impact that happens to be happening today, but are happening with more regularity and frequency, and with the weakening magnetic field, even when we're not being hit with a CME, we're still under the influence of an increase of this energy. Two things. One, just like when you see the trails and you know what they really are, you can feel differently about them. Not like they're spraying us like bugs, like the Orkin Man trying to exterminate us like bugs, but you realize that it's actually they're doing everything they can to protect us, including keeping us in the dark about what's going on. Because the cattle will stampede when they get spooked. So they are trying to maintain the integrity of the magnetic field enough to protect us for as long as they can. And they must protect us from ourselves as well. You feel very differently when you see those trails and when you know what it is. And when you know what it is that's affecting your current mood, along with those around you at work, at school, wherever you are, it's easier to cut yourself some slack and cut the people around you some slack when you know that you're under the influence. Like spiritual attack, you are under the influence of something that affects you, just like drugs or alcohol. When you're under the influence of those chemical influences, you are under the influence of electromagnetic or spiritual influences. And when you know this, it's easier for you not to get wrapped up in it and drawn in that direction. and recognize why you feel the way you feel, and that those feelings aren't even necessarily yours. And they certainly aren't due to the person who you're in proximity of right now, your boss, your coworker, your employee, who you would otherwise think it's that person's the reason I feel the way I do. Harboring and transference. We are all harboring much of this energy, this feelings of frustration and anger and agitation, and then it's easy to transfer it onto whoever's there in front of you in the moment and think you're the reason I feel the way I do. When you recognize the circumstances of our condition, it will enable you to not transfer those feelings that you're having onto whoever that is in front of you at the moment that you're in proximity of and interacting with. One more link to a music video that I'll include in the description is Eyes on Fire by Blue Foundation. I thought it was Blue October. Anyway, imagine this being from the perspective of the red plasma, a living, conscious entity that comes in here and looks for people based on their aura, based on their vibe. This is also what Jay Dreamer says is one of the biggest reasons, and this is why I love MB3 and Jay Dreamers, because they understand it is very important to help people see what's going on and not become emotionally ensnared and panic and put them, because some of the stuff we're seeing is very heavy stuff. But could you imagine me covering plasma fire the way Mr. MB3 does every other? When he goes, oh wow, that's neat, interesting, the trees are burning on the inside. I don't think I've ever seen it burn on the inside. Wow, that's interesting, huh? Could you imagine me pulling an MB3 for the last 7 years? It would be so disingenuous and inauthentic. Jay Dreamers too, he's part of the Good Vibe tribe, and he always brings that good vibe because he knows it is more important now than ever. But me, when I bring I have fire and fury and righteous indignation, and that's just how I bring it. Observe, but don't absorb when you're watching my videos. That's word to the wise. But this song, Eyes on Fire by Blue Foundation, if you see it from the perspective of the red plasma, these lyrics might make a little more sense. I seek you, I flay you alive. One more word and you won't survive. And I'm not scared of your stolen power. See right through you anyhow. I won't soothe your pain. I won't ease your strain. You'll be waiting in vain. I got nothing for you to gain. I'm taking it slow, feeling my flame, shuffling the cards of your game. And just in time and the right place, suddenly I will play my ace. I won't soothe your pain, I won't ease your strain. You'll be waiting in vain. I've got nothing for you to gain. Eyes on fire, your spine is ablaze, felling any foe with my gaze. That's what Jay Dreamer says the red plasma does. It docks with you, and that's why he tells you don't look at the pretty lights, because you're just asking for it. And just in time and the right place, suddenly I will play my ace. Oops, I got that lyric messed up. It's steadily emerging with grace, because that's what happens after this filtration process. When it separates the wheat from the chaff, And then after the holy harvest, the soil is tilled and the culture of consciousness is reseeded within the petri dish. Here you can see that there's 2.3 thousand people watching Marfugel's video, which the notification popped up on me here a few minutes ago while I was making this video. And below it, it just happens to be a video by Glass Animals. Heat waves are freaking me out. And Marfugel's thumbnail for his video that's playing right now is similar to what Mr. MB3 put on one of his videos the other day about the earth being engulfed or swallowed by the sun. And then he came out and apologized for using that thumbnail or that tagline or something. So I'll include World on Fire by Sarah McLachlan in the description as well. And remind you that it is essential to not allow yourself to become ensnared emotionally by the circumstances that will transpire all around us. And even I am very vulnerable to this happening. But knowing what's actually happening around us while it's happening, I believe that does make me less vulnerable to actually becoming ensnared. I'll catch myself after just a little bit of agitation or allowing myself to become frustrated and remember what's really going on here. And that it's not this guy or that circumstance that has me feeling this way. It is an extraordinary circumstance, not ordinary levels of electromagnetic frequencies in our atmosphere, extraordinary levels, in ways that we are in an environment that is unprecedented. So try not to allow yourself to become ensnared by it's only just a matter of time before we start to lose our mind. We're leaving all the haters behind. I'm scared to love what we love most. One day the sun will leave us all behind. Unexplainable sightings in the sky. And I hate to be the one to ruin the night. Right before your eyes. I say you kill your heroes and fly, fly, baby, don't cry. No need to worry, 'cause everybody will die. And every day you just go, go, baby, don't go. And don't you worry, we love you more than you know.